right? Is it Candle? I want to make sure.
Yes, sir. Just like the one you like.
Okay, cool. My teaching sense is when I say a student's name wrong, I usually have a smart remark that I say, but I got it right, so it doesn't make a difference. But I want to welcome you to the Citizen Advisory Committee. We are a family here. We're a feisty family. We like to ask questions, and so I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, what you do, and looking forward to this for being on board.
Hi, my name is Seth Candle. My quick elevator speech is born and raised in Southeast DC. Ended up dropping out of high school at 17 because of some housing issues. Joined the Army. Stationed at Fort Bragg, toured in Afghanistan, toured in Iraq. Undergrad at UNC. Then law school at Penn State, and then up until a year ago, I had the privilege of serving Durham County as one of the magistrates. And then a year ago, I got an opportunity to go and work as assistant counsel for the ABC Commission, and have been doing that since. Wanted to get back into serving Durham County and the city directly, so I volunteered for some of the committees and commissions that are available, and this was the one that I was really interested in, just because I've worked with RFPs and requests for proposals and as part of the magistrate's office, and that's my time in the Army. So it's an area that I'm interested in, and my own past history in housing issues very much makes me interested in this area.
We truly, first of all, appreciate your service to the country.
Thank you.
And we are glad to have you a part of our board. I think that you bring a lens. You will bring another lens that is critical in this board when we're asking questions and holding folks accountable. Those federal dollars that we are able to help decide who gets. I think that's going to be a critical piece. So welcome, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'll tell you that. And he lived in DC, so shout out to the DC DMV folks out there. We'll move forward. We are honored. I think in all of the years that I've been on the board, I'm not quite sure if the mayor has attended a meeting. Maybe once on the bond. Maybe, I'm trying to remember. However, the mayor is gracious enough, as he is heading into retirement, to grace our board and give us an update on affordable housing work. And on behalf of our board, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate you, the work that you're doing, the work that you have done over the last couple of decades to make Durham a place for everybody. And so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair Barnes. I appreciate being here with you all. It's great to see you. Mr. Candle, welcome. It was great to hear about your career, and thank you for your service, as the chair has already said.
Thank you, sir.
And this is a great group, and you all do really valuable work, and I'm just grateful to be here with you. The chair asked me to say a few words about affordable housing in Durham, where we are now with our housing program. So I'm going to do that. We of course have Mr. Reginald Johnson here, who knows a lot more about it than I do, and so he can pitch in whenever necessary. I'll just start by saying what you all know, that our city, like most American cities, has been at a crossroads with two possible futures in front of us. One of them is to watch gentrification overwhelm us and watch our city slip away, becoming even less affordable and less diverse. And the other future, the one that Durham has embraced, is to choose to fight back against that other future. And that's exactly what we're doing. Through the next 5 years, we're going to affordably house thousands of low-income Durham residents, the people that need it the most, in permanent affordable housing. In so doing, we're also going to work to deconcentrate poverty, creating new mixed-income neighborhoods on the Durham Housing Authority properties downtown. We'll support the creation and preservation of more than 2,400 affordable rental units. We'll move at least 1,700 homeless households into permanent housing, create at least 400 homeownership opportunities for low-income families, and we'll stabilize more than 3,000 low-income families renting their homes through eviction diversion, emergency rental assistance, property tax assistance, and repairs. And I should say that this is all in addition to what you all know about the ERAP funding, the emergency rental assistance funding that's coming to, has already, the city's had most recently $9 million that the county helped us distribute for emergency rental assistance. And we're getting a like amount now. That money is starting to come in. And we are, Mr. Johnson and his department have now found a partner. The city can't distribute that money ourselves, but we have a good partner that Mr. Johnson is working with to be able to distribute that money, and getting that money out the door as fast as possible is absolutely critical. But in addition to that emergency rental assistance, which is so vital right now, just in terms of our permanent affordable housing construction and preservation, Durham is acting on a scale that few, if any, other cities in this country are doing, certainly other cities our size. We're going to be creating an inclusive, racially diverse, affordable central city in Durham, which is, as you know, the impossible dream for many growing American cities. We've chosen a future that's worthy of a city that wants to live up to the claim to be a progressive beacon for the South of the nation. And here's how we're doing it. First, we've created the Affordable Housing Loan Fund. City dollars, your tax dollars, have leveraged low interest loans from Duke University, the North Carolina Community Development Initiative, and Truist to create a $10 million fund administered by the initiative and self-help. This fund pre-qualifies nonprofit affordable housing developers so they can act quickly in the market to acquire properties that come up for sale before they're snapped up by private developers. And the fund allows the nonprofits to hold on to the properties at a very low rate of interest for 5 years so they can arrange a subsidy to guarantee the property's permanent affordability. So far, more than 40% of the fund has been deployed with loans to the Durham Community Land Trustees, Reinvestment Partners, and Durham Tech. Yeah, Durham Tech is developing affordable housing on their property, which is great. And we have 2 more loans pending that will deploy up to 70% of the affordable housing loan. So that's one step. Meanwhile, there are so many projects underway with the support of city funding. And this funding, of course, comes from 3 sources. One is the $95 million affordable housing bond, which the voters of Durham approved with a 76% approval. It won every precinct in Durham. And this $95 million bond is almost twice as large as any other housing bond in the history of North Carolina to create permanent affordable housing. In addition to that, we have the 2 cents for housing. We tax you 2 cents on the tax rate. And we have some federal funds, Community Development Block Grant and home funds, which altogether will create about $160 million in subsidy over the next 5 years. And we believe we'll leverage about $500 million in private spending to help create this affordable housing. So what are some of the projects? And what I want to emphasize is a lot of this is already underway. Some people think it's wondering when it's coming. It's happening now. In many ways, I think, certainly symbolically, and then when you see it in reality, the most important project I think so far is the Willard Street Apartments, built on 2 acres of land donated by the city in the heart of downtown, right adjacent to the Durham Transit Station. Why do I think this is the most important new affordable housing development? Well, take a look at it yourself, and you'll see. These 82 affordable units, developed by Self-Help and DHIC and now fully occupied, are absolutely gorgeous. They have set a new standard for what affordable housing in Durham can and will be. Willard Street Apartments right next to market rate apartment buildings, but you can't tell which is which. And I want everybody to understand this. When we talk about new affordable housing in Durham, we're talking about first-class housing, comfortable, spacious apartments wired for broadband that look, act, and feel just like the market rate apartments springing up all over downtown. And that's what Willard Street is, and that's what we're going to be doing. Over the next decade, we'll be replacing the rundown Durham Housing Authority communities burdened by years of neglect from the federal government with housing just like Willard Street. And the current public housing residents will be living there. It will take time, but that is what this affordable housing plan will allow us to do. And here are some of the other things we're doing right now. With $2 million in support from the city, the Housing Authority is renovating J.J. Henderson Towers on Duke Street, 178 units for seniors to keep them permanently affordable. And we just had the groundbreaking for 82 new affordable senior units on the property right behind J.J. Henderson, again with $3 million in city support. And these will be really great units on a par with Willard Street. The city is also supporting a housing authority in its redevelopment of its aging properties at 519 East Main Street, the heart of downtown. These buildings will be knocked down and replaced by brand new affordable units. Phase 1 is beginning soon with 72 units for families on Elizabeth Street with $1.1 million in city subsidy, followed by 2 more phases that will house 80 more families and 82 seniors. Redeveloping the crumbling Durham Housing Authority properties across Durham is among the highest priorities of the Affordable Housing Plan. And this redevelopment will help us deconcentrate poverty as well. Right now, DHA residents with an average family income of $12,000 per year are living in isolated poverty in their communities. These new communities will be mixed income housing, with subsidized housing units mixed in with market rate units, all of the same construction. Durham Housing Authority residents are guaranteed to be able to return to these new homes and guaranteed their old rent as well. We can do this because you, the Durham voters, approved the affordable housing bond. And our commitment is to make all this possible. There's so many projects already underway with city funding and your tax dollars at work. Reinvestment Partners is preserving 42 affordable units on Ross Road. Durham Community Land Trustees is developing the second phase of its East Durham affordable housing work, renovating 14 single-family homes and duplexes to keep them permanently affordable. Habitat for Humanity is building 37 new homes in Franklin Village downtown. CASA recently finished its city-supported rehab of the Maplewood Underwood apartments near Duke University to keep them permanently affordable. And the land trustees have recently completed their rehab of 10 units in Southwest Central Durham to guarantee their permanent affordability. In addition to the Durham Housing Authority communities I just described, Durham Housing Authority has completed the rehab of Daymar Court and Laurel Oaks, and Maureen Road, more than 350 units preserved as affordable, with the city supporting the continuing renovation of these units. The city is providing $660,000 to support the scrap exchange plan to build 33 units, affordable units on its property. The city just turned over 9 city-owned lots to Habitat and Durham Community Land Trustees to build affordable units there. The city is providing $3.7 million for the creation of 80 new affordable units on Farrington Road to be built by Laurel Street residents. The city is providing DHIC and self-help with $4.9 million to build 118 new affordable units on Hardy Street. The city is providing CASA with $2.2 million to construct 16 new units on Duke Street, many of them for formerly homeless people with disabilities that need the services that CASA can help provide. The city is providing $1.6 million to Reinvestment Partners, adaptive reuse of Harriet's Place, the former Harriet Tubman YWCA, which will contain 16 units for formerly homeless people with. The city is providing $341,000 for the renovation of the preservation of the 14-unit Fitzpowell house owned by ACRA, which provides very affordable housing for people living with HIV and AIDS. And we have just heard back from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency about their award of a tax credit to support DHIC and self-help to build 52 more units right next door to their Willard Street apartments on land donated by the city. The beat goes on, and this is not going to stop. I'm being so specific because I want you all to understand the level of activity that's going on now. Mr. Johnson's department, as I've said many times, is at this point drinking from a fire hose. They have so many projects that are going that we are supporting. We, you, the taxpayers of this city, are supporting, providing gap financing for so many of these nonprofit developers who are doing great work to build this affordable housing. And this right now, we have another RFP out for affordable housing developers, and we'll pick the best of those to subsidize with another $10 to $15 million to build more affordable units. So all this housing is to be permanently affordable. And what do we mean by affordable? In the case of the Durham Housing Authority housing, it's affordable to the people who live there right now. And I see Mr. Carl Newman here. He knows this well. As a former executive with Durham Housing Authority, it's affordable to the people who live there right now who make an average of $12,000 a year. Other projects that I've described above are also permanently affordable to very low income, formerly homeless people with disabilities. And hundreds of units built with low income housing tax credits and city subsidies will be affordable to people with incomes at no more than 60% of the area median income, or about $54,000 for a family of four. That's how affordable these will be. We're only now beginning the homeownership portion of the affordable housing plan, with 400 new homeownership opportunities for first-time low-income home buyers soon to come. We will be helping hundreds of long-term low-income homeowners also stay in their homes by subsidizing home repairs that force so many local low-income seniors to sell the homes they cannot afford to repair. And along with Durham County, we now have for the first time a countywide program of grants to help long-term low-income homeowners who have been hit with large property tax increases as their neighborhoods have gentrified. This too will keep people from being driven out of their neighborhoods. The affordable housing plan I want to add also is a jobs plan and a minority economic development plan. This is really important. We will be creating about 3,000 jobs related to this housing over time. Durham Housing Authority residents will be trained for some of these jobs. And we have set a target of at least $130 million to go to minority and women-owned contracting businesses. And so far, we've been able to meet our targets. Throughout this process, transparency and accountability are going to be key. Will we meet our goals for new units and preserve units? How are the funds being spent? How is each funded project faring? Are we on schedule? Are we meeting our targets for minority and women-owned contractors? All of this will be closely monitored by the city's superb staff and a group of community representatives appointed by the City Council to the Affordable Housing Implementation Committee. And I am proud to say that we have two outstanding leaders, former City Council member Diane Katati and construction company CEO Tiffany Elder, who are leading this crucial committee. And you can also monitor this work by yourself by simply accessing the city's brand new website, foreverhomedurham.com. You can check it out today. It's well underway and will become a richer and richer source of information about each of these projects. I could go on, but I think that's probably a good place to stop, Mr. Chair. We have, in addition to all the housing that we are building, we have to be doing many other things as well. That includes our $500,000 annual contribution to Legal Aid of North Carolina to represent hundreds of Durham tenants in eviction court. And it includes all the services that we're providing also with this affordable housing plan to our homeless residents. We've really ramped up our street outreach and all of the system of care that serves our homeless residents, including the new homeless residents who've been created by this pandemic. So I could talk for a long time about it. I probably already talked a little too long, but I want to thank you all for your attention. And I want to say that again, that this work is ongoing. It's happening. In the next 5 years, you're going to be seeing thousands of units of affordable housing preserved and built new in the city of Durham. And I'm proud of that and appreciative, so appreciative of the support of the people of Durham for the way in which they have supported this work. So with that, Mr. Chair, I thank you. I appreciate you for inviting me. And I think I should end by saying thanks to you all again. You all do such vital work for our city. And I know that what I've described is not new to you all. And you're aware of it. Your support for all this, especially as you support our federal expenditures, which are such a big part of this program, is much appreciated. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate you, Mr. Mayor. Do you have time for a few questions?
Sure.
Awesome. Mr. Hughes, I see your hand up. I know you're itching to ask a question, and anybody else who would like to ask a question to the mayor, if you raise your hand, I'll just put you in the queue.
Thank you, Chairman Barnes. Of course, Mr. Mayor, it's always a pleasure, especially having the opportunity to have you join us at one of the Citizens Advisory Committee meetings. So I just have a couple of things that I guess I want to put in your ear. I wouldn't miss an opportunity to share my thoughts on how we move forward and how we ensure that there's equity throughout this entire process. So one of the challenges I think that we're facing as a community, and this is based off of some experiences I had in Washington, D.C. as they dealt with a similar problem, or even a problem that I think probably exists to a greater extent than what we have here in Durham. So that concern is, how are we going to actually track residents that currently live in public housing to ensure that they make their way back, if they so choose, to live in these new developments? I know that is one of those things we say, and having been born and raised here in Durham, I've seen past projects like the Hope 6 project come and redevelop the Old Few Gardens public housing community. And I can't always say that we meet the mark in terms of bringing folks back to the neighborhoods in which they once lived. So what is the plan to assure that we track and we actually keep those residents in Durham and back in those communities? So that's one question. And then I'm not going to ask you to necessarily expand on these other two, but I do want to just raise the concern of when these properties are developed and they're turned over to private companies to manage. One of the challenges that I know existed in Washington, D.C., I don't know so much here in Durham, is that when they're going at rates that are 60% AMI, which we know opens them up to a new market of individuals who can apply, we saw a lot of college students who come from wealthy backgrounds, who often weren't working, who are now able to apply and secure those affordable units as college students. And we saw that the community members who were most in need were oftentimes not able to get apartments in those units because of past credit history, past evictions that wouldn't allow their applications to even move forward. So I think there needs to be some type of program or some type of assurances that even with past blemishes on credit records, that folks who are low income will still have a fair shot at applying and being selected for apartments that are managed by private organizations or private entities. So I'll stop there. And I'm particularly interested in your response about tracking and ensuring that folks come back to their communities after they're redeveloped.
So thank you, Mr. Hughes. Those are both super important concerns. And I appreciate your raising the second one. And that is certainly an important concern for us. And I'm glad that Mr. Johnson here is here to hear it. I know he's been aware of it, but appreciate you raising it. In terms of the first concern, yes, absolutely right. That has been something we have not done as well as we should have in Durham over the many years. You mentioned Few Gardens. That way predates my time on city council, but you're absolutely right. We know that history. And so some things have changed. One is there's a new federal requirement that you have to offer the right of return to residents from Durham Housing Authority communities to come back. So that is great. There's now legal, there's a legal requirement that this be true. But you're also right that the tracking is important. And the Housing Authority is going to have to do a really good job of doing that tracking. One of the things that I think is really gives us somewhat of an advantage in terms of this is, and when I say us, I mean the people living in the Durham Housing Authority communities now, is the fact that we are building other housing throughout downtown, not necessarily on the Housing Authority properties, although some of them will be, where we are offering the opportunity for those folks to move now. So I'll give you an example. Willard Street has 20 families from Durham Housing Authority who've moved there, most of them from the Liberty Street area and what used to be Oldham Towers, 519 East Main. And I have, several times I've been over there and have talked to the people there, and they're very, very happy. As you can imagine, to move from Liberty Street to Willard Street is a wonderful thing. So one of the things the Housing Authority is trying to do is offer people the opportunities to move earlier. And so that prevents them from having the dislocation that you're talking about. Even if a person gets to come back, it's really hard to be dislocated and then come back. And so having people have the opportunity to stay downtown in other really great housing is a really good thing. But your point is well taken. We don't have a good history of that. And fortunately, there's new legal requirements, but it's going to require vigilance on the part of the Durham Housing Authority. And then I would say, again, just to reiterate, I do think we are in a little bit better situation than we were back, say, at the time of Few Gardens, because we're building other affordable housing that people can move to. So, and just finally, one of the things I should say, and a lot of our housing will have not only the 60% AMI, the low income housing tax credit income levels, but we'll also have, like Willard Street, a quarter of their units preserved for people with lower incomes. And so that can help us with the Housing Authority residents relocation. But thank you for that important question.
Pierce, City Council Member Pierce Rillon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Good
Hello,
to hear
Pierce.
good to hear your presentation. I'm going on a walk, which is why I'm audio only. I have kind of low bandwidth out here, but I just have a comment. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge, Mr. Mayor, that you are in the final stretch of your service to the city of Durham. Got about 2 months left after a few terms on council and rounding out your second lap with the mayor's gavel. And just hearing your presentation was really moving for me, not because the information was new, just really putting in perspective that this is your legacy, Steve. $95 million of affordable housing, hundreds of folks and families and residents and members of our beloved community, from, homeless folks, like you said, folks facing eviction, families, and working class people from 60 to 30% AMI will have a roof over their heads because of your tireless commitment to the city of Durham. Now, obviously, this wasn't just you. It was a community effort. We all played a part in it. And it was a team. It was great teamwork. But, I would just be remiss if I didn't take a moment to acknowledge that this achievement and the work to be ahead and the work to do ahead is just due in large part to your tireless efforts. And I just wanted to say thank you, to offer you some gratitude as not as a city council member, not as, a public figure, but as someone who grew up here and who cares deeply about my neighbors. And just hearing that report, I'll be honest, it got me in my feelings. So I just wanted to say thanks, man. That's it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know how it is. You do your best, and we've just got a wonderful community behind us. So, but thank you for those really kind words. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Freeline. I did want to ask the mayor a couple questions. And again, other members, if you have questions, either raise your hand or you can put them in the chat, and then I will be able to read them off. And if we are not able to get the mayor to answer these questions because of his time, we'll make sure that Mr. Johnson sends those questions to the mayor, and the mayor will greatly respond. So a couple things. I don't know, to go back to Mr. Hughes' second question about the college students. And I saw Seth shaking his head on the, them being able to, I guess, qualify for these units. Are there some stop gaps in place to, I don't know if you really can prevent it, but make note of the fact that, we want folks who are really in need of the housing to be in that housing. And not to say college students are not in need, but more so the folks who have been here who are in the most need to be able to get that housing. So hopefully there's a plan in place to at least be on watch on that. Second thing I wanted to ask you was about, you talked about home ownership. That is critical for me. I think affordable rental units is important, but home ownership is the game changer that really folks need to be able to get the real leg up, right? And there's 400 units that are going to be a part of it right now. Do you know how many other opportunities for home ownership that will be within the plan? And then the last question I wanted to ask you was, well, really it's two, sorry, is about evictions currently and what your concerns are about evictions currently right now. yes, we understand that, there's an eviction diversion fund, but that has, that money is going to be swallowed up. And what is the plan as you leave to prevent more evictions from happening? And then the last thing is, can the new mayor change any of the projects that has already been put in place based on the fact that you'll no longer be in the seat? That's it.
So those are great questions. In terms of the home ownership, so there's other things that we're doing to try to help people preserve home ownership. So one of the plans is mortgage support. So people who need, low income, first-time home buyers, mortgage support, and that's how we're going to support a lot of those 400 units, 400 first-time home buyers. But there are a lot of other things we're doing too, because one of the main things that we're worried about is not first-time home buyers, but long-term low-income homeowners are being forced out of their homes. So there's several things that we can do for them. One is the number one thing that drives people out of their homes is the inability, in the end, is the inability to make a big repair, and or sometimes even a small repair. A long-term low-income homeowner, perhaps elderly, they're going along making their payments, but then comes a big repair and they're not able to do it. Put on a new roof, make a significant repair. Then they sell their house, and they're forced to sell their house because they can't make that repair. And so one of the things that the bond does, and I wish I had this number in front of me, but we have significant funding in the bond to help make repairs, both small and large. And we're already doing that. The contracts are out there for that work to try to keep homeowners in their home. The second thing we're doing is the long-term low-income homeowner grants, which are being administered by Durham Social Services. It's a joint city and county program. It'll start next year for next year's taxes. And what this will do is it will provide grants for long-term low-income homeowners. The first group will be under 30% of AMI in order for them to be able to support them staying in their homes. This is a countywide program. It's the first time we've done it jointly. The city has had a program in 3 neighborhoods. We've now added a 4th, Walltown, to that for our own program. But the real answer is to have a countywide program that moves up to 60% of AMI so that people at that income level will be able to get support from the city and county to stay in their homes. We're not legally able to say to people, you can't pay your taxes. So what we've done instead through social services is be able to give people a grant, and both the city and county are supporting that to pay for their taxes. So that'll help people stay in their homes too. And then we have other things in the bond or in the housing program. One example is accessory dwelling units. We know there are a lot of people who might be low-income homeowners that have a house and not a lot of income, but they have land in their backyard. And we will be piloting a program. I don't think we've gotten this one going yet, Mr. Johnson, but we'll be working on it to support people to be able to financially support people to be able to build accessory dwelling units, sometimes called granny flats, in their backyard so that they can then get the income from those, and that will enable them to stay in their housing. So we're doing a lot. I haven't mentioned Habitat. We're supporting Habitat for home construction, a lot of home construction, and will be over the 5 years. And so there's a lot of effort on home ownership. I agree with you very much that home ownership is a way to build wealth, and it's hard in Durham to buy a home now. And so we're going to be supporting that, both people to buy a home and to keep a home if they already have one. One of your other questions was, can the new mayor come in and upset the apple cart and that kind of thing? First of all, I think that the city has broad support for this. And I know that the new mayor is very supportive of affordable housing. And so that I'm not concerned about that. The council can make, so one thing is that we've already levied this tax. the tax has already been levied to fund this fully as the voters, what the voters voted for. It's about 1.38 cents, 1.38 cents on your tax rate to pay for the affordable housing bond. And that's already been levied. And so that won't be changed. Money's going to be borrowed using that. So that's done. We're going to have this very robust affordable housing program is going to go forward. The council is super supportive, and I know any new council members that come on will be as well. So I feel good about that. You had one more question, Mr. Chair. What was that? The second one, I'm sorry.
So I had my first question was about to follow up on Donald's about on college students and making sure that the people who really need to get into those units get into those units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one other, you had something else though. It was,
I talked about evictions.
Oh, eviction. Yeah. Yeah. Eviction. So the city now puts $500,000 a year into Durham Legal Aid to do eviction diversion. And that is to represent tenants in eviction court. And they're able to represent hundreds of clients every year, which is great. And they're often able to work out agreements with the attorneys for landlords to help people stay in their homes, which is super important. That's been effective, very effective. But the real answer right now to the eviction crisis we're facing, in addition to that, is large amounts of federal funding, which we have received and are receiving. And we need to be able to effectively get that out the door. I want to commend Durham Social Services. They did a great job getting the original money out the door, both the money that came from the state through the HOPE program, and also the money that the city put our money there at Durham Social Services because they have the staff and the ability to income qualify people and the ability to be able to, you have to report, there's a lot of reporting requirements for HUD for this money, and they were able to do it. And so we now have new funds from the ERAP program, and we have to do that as well. That is, with the eviction moratorium ending, that money and getting it out the door is crucially important. And I've been impressed with what we've done so far. And I know that Mr. Johnson, I've talked to the city manager about it every week, this very topic, and it is the top of her priority list. And I know it is for others as well. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. I think you have time for one or two, or
I have another couple questions. Sure.
So we'll go Rachel and then right back into Donald. But before we go back to Donald, was there anybody else that did not get a chance to ask a question that would like to ask a question? Okay. Leah. So we'll go Rachel, Leah, then end with Donald. Is that okay with you, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
And I'm going to have to step off. So Brian's going to lead the rest of the meeting, unfortunately. Fortunately for me, I have a very competent vice chair. Mr. Mayor, on personal note, I do appreciate your friendship, your counsel throughout the years. You're not going anywhere. We know this. However, this is going to be my last official meeting with you as my mayor. And so I want to, again, speak on the back of what Pierce has said, man. It's been a pleasure to know you, get to know you throughout these, 8 years that I've been here. And I appreciate your service and look forward to what you're going to do next. And I know I'll see you at a couple uni games, so I'll make sure you get that scheduled. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the hardwood.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question specifically around kind of the property management firms with kind of the tenant selection plans and any eviction diversion. Does the city currently have any communication with affordable housing property managers on those two issues, just in terms of making sure that they have kind of I guess the highest quality of referrals, making sure that that tenant selection plan is in alignment with what folks would like to see. And then additionally too, with the eviction diversion, if the property management firms are also on the same page with the city and their criteria that they're working to develop.
Thank you. I'll take the second one first. For our affordable housing, if I understand your question correctly, I've seen the process at work, most recently Willard Street, but in other places, and I feel confident that we have had very good practices in terms of both on sort of both ends of the process, tenant selection, which I guess is really your first question, and are our folks in tune with our policy with eviction diversion? And I would say yes. You know, the housing authority, and again, Mr. Newman is here, knows more about this than I, but they've really done a good job in improving their eviction practices to help people stay in their homes longer. There's some federal requirements that made it hard for them to do that, but I think they've done a really good job. So I think in terms of, if you wanted to get detail on that, Ms. Eberhard, I think that talking to Reginald Johnson, Director Johnson, at another time, he could tell you a lot more than I can. But that's my general impression.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, my internet's been very spotty, so I am
No worries.
video off today, like I think many of us are. Thank you so much for your time, and I do also want to echo just gratefulness for being our mayor for the past couple of terms. My question is about social service integration with DHA. I know that I have some background in government and public administration. I know that that is not always easy, interdepartmental cooperation, but what, if any, are there initiatives to make sure that folks who are in DHA or interested in that are also getting connected with other kind of vital social services to make sure that that service is sustainable, that they get their other needs met?
That's a great question. I think that one of the things I've been very interested in through the ERAP program, through the Rental Assistance Program that Social Services has run, is the huge number of those residents applying for rental assistance who are already in the social service system getting some form of assistance. I don't know the exact number, but it's very, very large. And, in a way, I found that discouraging, because that means that, people they've been housing unstable, and they also, need services, which means that they're, not able to be totally self-sufficient in certain important ways. But the encouraging part of it is that they are in the system, that they have received services, and many of them are continuing to receive services. So that's a good thing. But I think that what you are talking about is one of the biggest challenges that we face. It's one thing to build the housing and get people in it. It's another thing to provide the critical services that can help keep people in it. And we do this I think, well, for people at the lowest level of our income spectrum. So for our people who are formerly homeless with disabilities, for example, that go into CASA housing, they're receiving really strong supports because CASA does that well. And there are other, there's a significant number of other housing units that are being built, permanent or people are being not built necessarily, but are being preserved as permanent supportive housing. And then there's where people are getting that long-term support. And then there is rapid rehousing, where people who are homeless, but don't necessarily, they may not be kind of long-term addicted or have significant mental health problems, but maybe they've been evicted, they're between jobs, or they've arrived in Durham, they're looking for a job. These folks are being served in what's called rapid rehousing. And for them, there are services provided, But the services are provided on a short-term basis. It could be 6 months, it could be 9 months until they get themselves on their feet. But there are many people, many people in the group that you're talking about who do not have the kinds of supports that we wish we could supply. And I say we, I don't mean just the city of Durham, I mean our whole community. I mean Alliance, mental health, I mean social services. We know that there are many people that aren't getting the supports, all the supports and services that they need, and that continues to be a huge challenge for our community. I will tell you that the city has applied for something called the Mayor's Global Challenge through Bloomberg, where we are applying to do just this. We're using the community health worker model to try to support people who will be connecting our residents to services. We would like to be able to, just as we've hired community health workers, to hire people who are from the community and of the community, who will help guide people through all the various social services and mental health systems, because we know that there are many people that aren't being served. So in answer to your question, we aren't nearly where we need to be, and we need to continue to make a lot more efforts to make it happen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your extremely thoughtful answer.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'll wrap us up on this topic, but you said something that I think is an important segue into the question that I was going to ask you. How do we keep folks in decent and affordable housing here in Durham? So what we know is that our housing costs continue to skyrocket. Incomes aren't going up at the same rate. And while I'm not anti-college students, because I was absolutely a struggling college student once, or actually a couple of times, so I understand the need for decent and affordable housing for our young people as well. But what we know in Durham is that a lot of these properties that we're going to be redeveloping sit in prime locations, particularly downtown. So they're the hot properties that folks want to live in because they can walk to the beautiful restaurants and the other activities that are downtown. How do we, so let me start here. How long are the private managers of some of these developments required to keep certain number or levels of affordable units?
Well, most of them are 30 years,
Okay.
but most of them are also owned by all of them. Well, I won't say all. The vast majority will be owned by nonprofit developers or the housing authority, who will keep them permanently affordable. So the 30 years is what you can require, but they will be, and after 30 years, as you all know, you have to renovate. This costs more money, another subsidy will be required. We're doing that now for a lot of our aging housing stock, providing another subsidy so they can be renovated. But yeah, 30 years. But then again, I want to emphasize the vast majority of this housing will be owned either by the housing authority or by nonprofits like the community land trustees or CASA, who keep them permanently affordable. Neither CASA, they've never moved a house into market rate ever in all their units, and I know that that's true of our other affordable housing developers.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's a good thing to hear. That alleviates some of my concerns. But the reason why I asked that question is because, as you know, I'm pretty active in the community. I try to keep my ear to the ground, and housing, particularly for marginalized folks, is one area of particular concern for me. I've been hearing from community members that currently live in a particular property that was redeveloped, and I can have this conversation offline with Mr. Johnson and with yourself, that they have experienced increases in their rent, which we know can still happen with affordable housing. There's normally a margin in which you can increase the rent. But what's more concerning is that there are reports that some of these properties, or this particular property, has started moving in college students and charging rent on a per room basis versus a unit. So you may have 3 individual college students who have separate leases for a 3-bedroom apartment that a family of 4 or 5 rehab probably needs in Durham. So those are the types of concerns that I've been hearing from residents who live in current properties. And again, they weren't developed under your leadership, but I do know that the city has a hand in development of these properties over the last decade. And that's something that we have to be aware of and concerned about, is that when we have an intention for a property or for the redevelopment of affordable housing, and then there aren't legal ways that we can require certain things, and then we see aberrations of units like this happening across the city. So that's just a particular concern for myself, and I would love for you all to think about that, and I would love to have a conversation about this one particular property, and if there's anything that violates whatever agreement might have been put in place to develop that particular unit, that particular property.
Thank you. Yeah, if there's a property that has a city subsidy and they're breaking their agreement that way and sort of letting room by room, we definitely need to know that. And if you would send me and Mr. Johnson, especially Mr. Johnson, you can send it to me if you want, but he's the one that really is in touch with it. I know he'll give it his attention. You know, I take some comfort. I hear the concerns about the college students and so forth. I take some comfort when I think about who is in Willard Street, which is just the exact kind of demographic that we have been hoping for, is in Willard Street, just the people that we want to be housed in downtown Durham. And so I take some comfort from that, and I believe that we can do a good job in getting the tenants that really need it. I mean, you all are pointing out we want to house the people that really need it, and I feel comfortable that we can. But I appreciate that, and if you would not mind just sending us an email, letting us know what that developer is, we can certainly. I know Mr. Johnson will give it his attention. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate you having me. It was fun to be here. I know this is not everybody's favorite topic, but it happens to be one of mine. And so I just appreciate the opportunity. I want to I see Mr. Johnson, Mr. Schnars, and just express my gratitude to our staff. We have a great staff, and want to thank them. Yeah. All right, everybody. I appreciate you. Thanks for your service here. It's important. You're doing something super important for our city. I tell people all the time, Durham, there's only 25 elected officials in Durham, only 25. And there are 285,000 people that live in the city. Not everybody can be an elected official. There's so many other ways to lead, and you all are doing it. So much gratitude to you. And I'll see you around the corner.
Thank you for that. And thank you again for your time. It's been great. And I'm sure if anyone else has any more questions, we might fire some off your direction and hopefully not bug you too much in the future. But thank you again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair. Appreciate you.
Have a good evening. So next off, one, just to keep things to, I know we only technically go till 7:30, and so we'll try to move through as much as we can. But if some of the later things fall off of the agenda, we'll just move them to next month. But next we want to do the presentation. Ms. Smith from Peach is here. She's going to talk about some of the work they do. And I want to thank her for her patience as we all, I'm sure we're excited to talk to the mayor for a few minutes, few minutes longer than the 15 minutes we had planned. So thank you for your patience, and I'll hand it over to Ms. Smith and Peach.
Good evening. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm not actually going to be giving a presentation this evening. I have 3 staff here who are community health workers here in Durham, and they will be making the presentation. But, and I know the mayor has already left the meeting, but I just want to say that I really think that's a really, really important topic in affordable housing. And for you as the Citizens Advisory Committee, also what's really important is healthy housing. And so that's one of the things that we like to focus on when we look at the housing stock here in Durham. Is that not only do people have housing that's affordable, but also that they have housing that does not make them sick just by living in them, by breathing the air in them. drinking the water. So, and we don't have a problem with water in Durham, so I don't want to seem like I'm raising that concern. But I will just introduce Leon Holloway. He is the person that will do the presentation. It's a short presentation. It's just an overview of the work that we're doing and an opportunity for either Annette Rogers or Waldo Rogers. As far as I know, there's no relation. They just have the same last name. The three of us will hang around and answer questions if you have any at the end of Leon's presentation. Thank you. And hi to everyone. I appreciate being here, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Schnars, down Mr. Euler. Okay, I'm not going to go through everyone. Thank you. And I'm turning it over to Leon.
Okay, good afternoon, good evening. First of all, I would like to thank the Citizen Advisory Committee for allowing Peach to present tonight. My name is Leon Holloway. I'm one of the eight of the full-time committed community health workers with the partnership effort for the advancement of children's health, Peach. As Ms. Lenore is the Peach director, and she has positioned Peach as a leader in a grassroots effort to improve community health by educating, training, empowering committee members to reduce environmental health hazards in their community. Okay, in 2016, Peach started a transition to Durham called primary prevention. Currently, what happens is that if a child is diagnosed with poison or get poisoned by lead, what happens is that they do not receive any services until they are poisoned, I'm sorry. And with this primary prevention policy, it would change it, that they will have services before and education before they get poisoned, they know what to do. As a certified lead abatement agency and a renovation repair RRP agency, Peach is committed to create an environment training, a lead safety institution, and increasing the number of environmental businesses owned by people of color. Peach currently offers 2 classes each month. The third Thursday is the initial class, which contractors, and now that if anyone is interested in taking the class, the fee is waived. Also, on the 4th Thursday of each month is the refresher class from 8 a.m. to noon. And the initial class is from 8 to 5 on that 3rd Thursday. So if anyone is interested in taking the RRP class, just let us know. We'll be glad to sign you up. Peach consistently collaborates with community-based, nonprofit, for-profit, and government agencies. And one of those agencies is Cure America, which we partner with. And Cure America is for the city of Durham. We did vaccination equity program. Currently at Peach, what we do, we have COVID testing Monday through Wednesday from 10 to 4. This is free COVID testing. We also partner with other communities and other agencies in the communities with vaccination. So anywhere there is a need that Peach will need to go, share pamphlets, share information about COVID testing, about COVID vaccination, Peach is there to help out with other community agencies. We also partner with the Durham Neighborhood Improvement Services on the Neighborhood Preservation Program. This is a program that will help low-income marginalized homeowners eliminate housing code violations. The National League of Cities have funded a pilot study for reinvestment partners and Peach to determine what trigger asthma and ways to prevent asthma. Durham business and Healthy Committee supports Peach with funding to create a series of vaccine webinars. These projects include certified community residents in IRB principle to assist Peach in creating a community-based research project. Okay, there are health risks with lead. Hazardous, and lead is hazardous to small children as well as pregnant women. Lead exposure and lead poisoning is also an equity issue because those most at risk are children of color, Black children, children living in poverty, children living in homes that was built before 1978. Durham Community Development Department has been awarded a $3.2 million HUD grant. The grant requires lead remediation to 116 low-income Durham households. And this is what I was telling you before, that you can take the class and you wouldn't have to pay for the class. The HUD grant will pay for it. Peach has been awarded contracts to conduct marketing and research, application intake, and to recruit low-income residents for the RR and lead working training, and to conduct inspection and risk assessment. The $3.2 million from HUD extremely helps us begin Durham important transition to, as we mentioned before, the primary lead poisoning prevention. For many Durham residents, last year has been a devastating year with the pandemic. Many families are still struggling for stability, job loss, and housing insecurity. The ARPA funding can be an instrument implementing a healthy home project to address environmental hazards in the residential homes of families with low income, children who are vulnerable to impact environmental toxics. How can you help? You can help us by sharing with Durham community, members of our HUD Leader Grant opportunities that we have with the city of Durham. Peach is doing application intake and eligibility. The qualification to receive services for the grant will be for the residents to live in a house built before 1978. There are children, there's a child aged 6 or younger, lives in a home or visits the home at least 6 hours a day. The income is less than 80% of the annual median income for Durham residents. We are also asking and reaching out to the PACs and neighborhood association to spread the word. We would like to ask for your guidance, partnering with us to encourage the city of Durham to invest $2 million into the ARPA opportunity for healthy homes. The funding will help to address the issues such as mold, lead abasement, asbestos, and pest properties. This opportunity will allow us to greatly improve the quality of living for many low-income residents, especially those of children. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. I'll open the floor if anyone has any questions or.
Hey, Leon, this is Jillian. So to clarify, did you apply to the HUD grant, or are you giving out funds after receiving the HUD grant?
And the ones who could help me most, I think we applied for the HUD grant, and we have portions of the HUD grant by doing marketing and outreach and the application intake.
Jillian, let me jump in. This is Lenora. It's actually the city of Durham that applied for the HUD grant, and the city was awarded the grant. And then through the oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name, but through the bid process, I want the procurement. Through the procurement, yes, thank you. Through the procurement process, Peach was awarded the marketing and outreach, the application intake, and the relocation, and the under another umbrella, the opportunity to do lead inspections and risk assessment. So it was
Okay,
actually
gotcha.
the city of Durham that applied for the funding, not
Cor-
Peach.
Okay, yeah, correct. So you received those funding allocations for those services. So the if you could go back to the previous slide, I forget the term. It's almost like AARP, but it's not. ARPA. So I think it's the last slide, but so your ask to the board today is for us to encourage the city to increase funding or to establish funding for $2 million for healthy home initiatives. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we are so we have submitted a proposal earlier in the process. We're part of a collaborative, a coalition of 7 community-based organizations. And they are, I'll try to name all of them. And if I forget one, it's charge it to my heart, not to my brain, not my heart. But we have CARE, Try, Las Amelia, Slice 325, the El Centro Hispano, and Project Access for Durham. Those are all a part of the coalition, and our portion of the proposal is to begin the process to create this environmental institute that creates sustainable jobs and training income for residents in Durham, and we're targeting low-income residents.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So what is so how could we best support you in advocating towards the city? And then what is the deadline for that support?
So part of our push right now is to get this information out to people that are really involved in advocacy for the city, that are concerned about how city dollars are spent. So that's our first push here right now. The timeline for it actually has been moved back. So the initial proposal was submitted. We at one point had, I think it was a September 16th deadline, or may have been an October 16th deadline, but that has been extended. And we're still currently working on the proposal with the coalition. And so we haven't been given the exact deadline for the proposal yet, but in the email we received, it said late October as the deadline. And our coalition is slated to meet later this week. Did I answer all of your questions, Jillian?
Yeah, so I said yes, but no, one more. So would support look like, a letter of support to the city council, after you submitted?
Oh, yeah. So what will happen, again, in getting this information out and as a push to get this information out, ultimately, this proposal will go or come before the citizens of Durham, and they will have a voice in the selection process. That's the way that I understand it. This funding is being made available through the city and the county. And
Okay.
through this process, there will be panels to look at the proposals, but also that citizens will also have the opportunity to weigh in on an effective way, or a way to use and spend that money.
Okay. Thank you. Well, as the board, I mean, I'm speaking here, but I know we can definitely, as individual board members, encourage citizens and residents to attend those meetings to learn more about the applicants. And then I think that we can talk as a board too, to sort of see how we could support this coalition in outreaching for support for y'all to get funding as well. I think this is definitely an important issue, but I'll go ahead and stop and let others speak. Sorry about taking the floor.
No, but look, can I just say thank you for that, because that's really, really important to us. A lot of times, especially with community-based organizations, even though we may have been around for a while, navigating the landscape can sometimes be a little challenging. And so we do look for direction for groups such as the Citizens Advisory Committee. We're really pleased that you invited us to speak here and present what our program and what we have been able to do and what we would like to continue doing here in Durham. So thank you for your support. And Jill, if it's okay, I would like to just sort of reach out to you to help keep the committee informed of our activities, if that's the way to go about doing it.
Yes, and I think I have your email. I heard y'all speak on the Environmental Affairs Board
Yes,
as well. Yeah.
yes, and
Yeah,
I
we
have
can be.
yours. So okay,
Okay,
thank you.
great.
Yeah, and so I think I see Donald with a question and then Alicia with the question. So we'll do those two questions and then we'll wrap this up.
All right, thank you, Brian. So just to your point, Jillian, my first meeting of this committee, I don't think you were present, but we actually had a pretty lengthy discussion about where we wanted the committee to go. And I brought up the idea of the committee actually taking a more proactive role in actually advocating for various programs or efforts or initiatives related to the spending of the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. So that was something that we did discuss, and really just saying, hey, here's our intention as a committee, and how do we draft or craft some type of letter that spells out what priorities we want as a committee. So that's an aside that I wanted to share with you that took place. Oh, you were present. Okay, great. Also, this is to Ms. Smith Lenora. In terms of the actual proposal, like, I'm very interested to just kind of get a preview of it if it's available, so that we can know what we are offering our support to. From what I heard, I think it sounds like a great, I've known you since I was a little kid and know the great work that you've done here in Durham, but I would love to learn more about this specific proposal. And I would also be in support of us figuring out a way as a Citizens Advisory Committee to be able to advocate for initiatives such as this once we get additional details.
Yes, actually, absolutely. And so we're still in, let's see the best way for me to do this. I can send you the proposal that we have right now. I don't know that it will change a whole lot by the time we meet with by the time we have our meeting on Wednesday. But I will just say that the key points of the proposal, that we're just really looking to train marginalized residents. We want them to be skilled in lead-based paint disciplines that create sustainable employment. It's an environmental and it's an economic area that directly addresses the home environment. So we're looking to make sure that our residents can contribute and be effective in that way. We want to design, we have three main things we want to do. We want to design and implement a replicable, structured, on-the-job training apprenticeship. we hope to train at least 9 community health workers and to hopefully establish at least 3 lead abatement businesses through this process. We want to do construction and remediation on at least 75 houses with lead and other healthy home concerns. It won't be only focused on lead, which we want to kind of catch some of the gap from the HUD grant, because there are a lot of needy families and homes that will be left out. And then if homes are built before 1978 and they still don't meet the criteria for the HUD grant, we'd like to be able to provide them with an inspection and a risk assessment so that they will know if their home does have lead in it before they attempt any repairs on the home. And so those are that's the gist of what we want to do, but I will submit to you the proposal. And again, we still have until Wednesday, or I don't know that we have the deadline yet. And I'm open. Please share with me your ideas and suggestions that we might use to strengthen this proposal. That would be very, very appreciative from our end.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to wait until after Wednesday's meeting for you to share it, if you all are going to be working through maybe some last tweaks on it.
Okay, and I'll just forward that to Jillian.
Alicia, you're up.
Hey, thank you. I just have one quick question. Wanted to make sure I understood clearly about the services you provide. In addition to training on lead detection and prevention, do you also assist with all types of abatement? Is that where some of the funds go to, the actual lead abatement, or if there's mold, etc.? Do you actually help residents with the actual abatement through this grant?
That's what we will. Okay, so if you're talking about which grant, the HUD grant or ARPA?
I was thinking about the HUD grant.
So with the HUD grant, not yet. So the actual abatement piece has not been bid yet. So that the jury's still out on that piece. But we will be assisting in detecting, doing lead inspections and risk assessments on homes to determine whether or not they do have lead-based paint hazards.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for your question. Thank you so much. And we thank you guys for the opportunity to be here this evening. And I don't know if you guys are on my email list, but we're having an event on Thursday, a lead poisoning prevention awareness event. And we're doing this, our plan anyway, is to do it as a community block party style event, just to kind of get as many people in the space as possible so we can share information about the HUD grant with people, that we can recruit people to the training course and just kind of expose them to other community resources as well. And then if it does rain, we're having, we're debating, I would probably leave that up to Annette or Waldo to talk about, but if we can choose, Annette just put the flyer in the chat. So if you are available, please join us on Thursday from 5 to 7 at the UDI building, 800 North Mangum Street, which is where the Peach office is.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And yeah, we'll have this. So yeah, we'll have the flyer, so we'll make sure we can circulate it after this meeting too for any of the members who also aren't here that might be interested. And then yeah, moving forward, after you guys have your meeting on Wednesday, make any changes. If you want to send Jillian the draft proposal you guys have, and she can kind of forward it on to us. that'll give a chance for any of the members to look at it, look through it, and then we can kind of talk about our thoughts on it and steps moving forward in terms of support it and what we can do. But yeah, thank you again for your time.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, Donald.
Can I just have I just wanted to take a moment of personal privilege. I wanted to acknowledge Coach Waldo Rogers from the Peach team. I actually, he was my coach when I was a kid, so about 25 plus years ago. But I just wanted to acknowledge him and his presence, and also speak to the kind of community-rooted involvement of the Peach team and the work that they do here in Durham. So Lenora and Coach Rogers and Annette, I know you all, and Leon, I haven't met you, but thank you for the presentation and for taking our questions this evening.
Thank you, Donald. I just want you to know I am very proud of you. I have been following you for the last couple of years. I am so proud of you. Thank you so much, Donald.
Yeah, real quick, before we turn it over to the next person, my name's Annette. I just put another link there to our HUD grant. So you can see that and you can pass that along to people. It just gives you an idea of who would be eligible for it. And you can, that way you can see what we're already doing for the community. So thank you for the opportunity tonight.
Yeah, thank you. And that connection, Donald, that's amazing. It always makes me happy when I see those kind of ties come back around full circle and everyone kind of, still appreciating the work people have done ages ago, and coming back around. But yeah, thank you to the Peach team again for taking time, answering our questions, and that presentation, and sharing the info here. And I look forward to getting the proposal and seeing how we can help moving forward. I think that'll be exciting.
Thank you.
Moving on, we are at 7:28, and technically we end at 7:30. And so, Mr. Johnson, I don't know how long your update actually is.
Well, I propose this, Mr. Vice Chair, that the next two staff items that we move to the next agenda, what I would say on behalf of my presentation is that we should email it to you if you don't already have it. And what it is in summary, is the impact of COVID-19 on our development projects. And for the most part, there has been cost increases that we've been able to handle. Most developers have been able to handle their projects. We have one that is of significance and note. That's a Ross Road project that's going before the city council now that has some significant cost increases due to COVID and the impacts on lumber and all those costs, as well as some asbestos issues. But I can suffice with that piece of information, call everybody's attention to it, and we can put this presentation as well as the next one on the next agenda in the essence of time.
All right, that sounds good to me if everyone else is okay with that.
Mr. Vice Chair, one point of order. We didn't approve the minutes. If that's something, would that be something we could do for the end of the meeting here?
Yeah, we can do that real quick. So we'll table Mr. Johnson and Mr. Snars your two presentations for next month. Other than that, I think the other main thing on the agenda was just kind of giving a little preview of as the executive committee what we were thinking for the next few meetings. I know we were talking about next month doing a homeless service advisory update. December and January having an update from DHA, and then someone from either Mr. Johnson or Matt was going to talk about the performance and metrics of how we review grants and proposals and things like that, and look how we track how successful our grants are. And so those are kind of the things coming up that we have planned. Things today like having Peach come talk with us. That was something Jillian brought to us. And so again, we do as the executive committee really want to make these meetings work best for you and make sure you all are getting the information you want to hear and is most important to you. So if you have anything like that you come across and want to bring it to our attention, please don't hesitate to do so. And then a quick announcement is just a reminder that the November meeting will actually be on the third Monday. So it'll be the week before Thanksgiving. So we're not all trying to meet on Thanksgiving when people might be traveling and have conflicts scheduling and things like that. And then yeah, to Matt's point, just one last thing to wrap up. We do have the minutes from last meeting to review. And so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chair, you're not able to make a motion since you're sitting in the chair. Somebody else.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes. Seth Candle makes the motion. Moves.
I second the motion, but I just want to clarify. I think the minutes that were sent out were for was it 2 meetings or was it just the previous meeting?
It's this September 27th.
It was just a September meeting.
September
The
one.
August, yeah, the August minutes were presented at the
last
September
meeting. Okay. Thank you.
I would like to add that I am waiting to insert Mr. Johnson's presentation as well as Mr. Schnarr's into the minutes. So if we could just accept them, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, if we could just accept them as is with the understanding that I'll embed those 2 presentations.
I'm fine with that as long as we can actually do that.
So let me just clarify, Alicia, that you mean the presentations from this meeting that we are going to forgo?
No. From the for the September meeting, you did a presentation on the bid process.
I'm sorry.
And then Mr. Johnson gave us an update, and it was kind of like an Excel view of the funding that was spent up to date. I actually didn't have those tabulated values. So if I could just, get that from the 2 of you and I can embed it in the minutes.
I'm sorry, yes.
I just wanted to embed it, yeah, so we wouldn't lose track of it.
Okay. We can do that.
And let me just, I want to remove my second just because I wasn't present at the September meeting. I must have been looking at some older ones, but I thought I saw the August minutes. So I just don't want to second something that I wasn't present for.
I'll second that, Carl.
So any other comments on these minutes other than Alicia making clear that she's going to add in the Mr. Johnson and Mr. Schnarr's presentations from September to these once she has them? In that case, we can go ahead and approve them. Anyone who approves, say aye.
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 Anyone who disapproves, say nay. And they are approved with the understanding that Alicia will then add in those presentations once she has them so that they're embedded with the minutes. And at that point, a few minutes over, but thank you all again for coming. Look forward to seeing you next month.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask for that next. Clearly, I am not experienced with running these meetings. So yeah, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Motion seconded.
All right. In that case, have a good month, everyone.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Take care.
Thanks, Matt.